Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Lena, and I'm broadcasting from Beirut, Lebanon. And I wanted to say a few things about forgiveness because to kind of get us in the right mindset for it before we take the journey. So I discovered forgiveness through inner child healing work. There's a lot that has been written about inner child healing, and one of the books that I really liked that I want to recommend is this one here. It's called Reconciliation, Healing the Inner Child, and it's by Thich Nhat Hanh, who is amazing. I think he's one of the greatest spiritual leaders walking the earth today, really. So the idea about the inner child healing is that inside of each of us, we have a wounded child. Because in our childhood, we would have experienced difficulties and challenges and even traumatic experiences. And what happens is we tend to bury those feelings and emotions in order to protect ourselves from future suffering. And we even split that part of us off. But it all gets stored in our body. It becomes part of our emotional landscape. It creates our belief system foundation in our life. And our limiting beliefs, like I'm not good enough, and all our insecurities that all of us have, they come from there because we were like sponges when we were children. So basically, with this wounded child, it's constantly asking for your attention and for your care in many different ways. And I want to say something about what a trauma is. So a trauma is when our survival or our security physically and or emotionally and mentally are at stake, and we don't have the strategy to be able to respond. So you can see trauma has a subjective component to it also. And there's a whole spectrum on trauma. There's, things like death in the family and sexual abuse and physical abuse and emotional abuse. And then there's the bullying in school and even teachers who might have told you that, you're lazy or you're stupid or why you dressed like this, you look like this or that. That has a huge impact on us. So one of the things that I had to work on with the inner healing at the beginning was related to something that happened to me at school. I was expelled from school when I was 11. So at the end of the school year, the school basically said, we don't want you to come back. And it was for academic reasons because I was academically failing and I was very academically weak and I had gaps and all of that. And I remember they told my parents that they should put me in a special school. And in Greece, where I was raised, the special schools were called schools for the mentally retarded. And they also told my parents not to ever expect me to graduate from high school. And these are very damning, declarations to make about a child's ability. And it really impacted me. But before my parents considered any of those other options, they decided to put me in an American school that took a more holistic approach to the child. And there, in my own time, I started to blossom in the school. And then I went for advanced degrees. I have a master's from Harvard. I have a PhD from Cambridge in education, of course, and I studied student engagement. So you can see the link. And the thing is, even though I achieved a lot, I always had the ghost of failure following me no matter what I did. The fear of failure, the fear of making a mistake, not being good enough, needing validation from people around me, all these insecurities that impacted the work I was doing and also would have liked to have done. So these limiting beliefs really follow us until we stop and we face them. And there are a lot of ways you can do inner child healing. Some of it is superficial, so be careful what you choose if you want to get into it. But I was using matrix reimprinting. That for me is a very powerful technique, and that's why I actually became a practitioner after that. And when I started to get into it, forgiveness and compassion are really central to the process because healing is all about wholeness. And I was really surprised how peaceful I felt afterwards, how joyful I felt, how free I felt to make decisions in my life that were free from fear. So it's a very powerful work, the forgiveness work and compassion. And forgiveness was never part of my radar. It was never part of my life for a couple of reasons. I associated it with being religious. I associated it with doing the moral thing, like you should forgive other people if you're a moral person. And that didn't resonate with me. And also, part of me considered it weakness because you have to be vulnerable when you do that. And I hated vulnerability. So I was really inspired when I started doing this work. And today I wanted to share about 5 things on forgiveness. And they're not things that it's not a list somewhere else. It's actually things that I came to realize around forgiveness with the work I've done on myself and also the professional work that I do with people. So the first thing around forgiveness is that it's a process. It's a journey. It's not a switch you turn on and off. Yeah. And I'm not going to lie and say it's easy, especially at the beginning. It's not easy. And it's not easy because there's shame around what happened. There's also a fear that we might be overwhelmed by emotions and going back there. And then also a part of us might feel like, well, I want to be angry. You know, I have the right to be angry, and we want to hold on to that because who are we without that anger? So it's a process, it's a journey. You're unpeeling the layers of the onion. The second thing about forgiveness for me is that it's a personal choice. It can never be imposed on someone. Only you know if it's suitable and when it's suitable. And that's why please never recommend to someone, I think you should forgive. Okay, you actually cause more harm than you think. So it's a process, it's a personal choice. And even with that personal choice, I've had people tell me, I want to do it, but it's challenging. It's difficult. The starting point is being open to the possibility of forgiveness. Just the possibility. That's the starting point, and you're doing great. The third thing is honoring how we feel. That is our resentment, our anger, or our hurt, our hatred, like all those emotions that we're feeling inside of us. We have to honor these emotions and validate them without any judgments. And this is the point that you can't skip or try to take a shortcut, because I've tried, trust me, I've tried to take a shortcut and it just doesn't work. So your body won't let you get away with it. Okay? So that's the third thing. Honor how you feel without any judgment, because we can't heal what we don't feel. Number 4, and I think this is one of the biggest obstacles for people and a big misconception, is people tend to think that forgiveness is about other people. It's about condoning the behavior of people who've hurt you. And that's not forgiveness. You know, like forgiveness is about you. It's a gift that you give to yourself. And as Nelson Mandela said, it's a liberation of your soul. Yeah, because you want inner peace, you want your life back, you want joy, you want your freedom. So it also means that you don't need to tolerate that person in your life, because some people are toxic and they don't, it's better that they're not in your life. So it doesn't mean that because you want to forgive someone, then suddenly you have to start talking to them or have them in your life. You decide who is in your life and who's not. Okay? So this process of forgiveness doesn't mean that wounds were not inflicted, but that those wounds are not going to continue to control your life. And Oprah Winfrey said that when she was talking about her abuse. Okay, and that's very powerful. That's very important. So it is about you, because when we hold on to resentment, the one we're hurting is ourselves, whether it's resentment or any other heavy emotion. And Deepak Chopra said it very nicely. He said that when we hold on to resentment, it's like we're holding on to our breath. At some point, we're going to suffocate. Okay? So the fifth thing I want to say about forgiveness, what I've learned, is that it's a real letting go. It's a real letting go of our past. When we experience something that's hurtful, we have an emotional imprint that's in our body, and we create an emotional thread to that event, that person, that situation, that way of feeling. Yeah, and therefore we're held hostage to our past. Our energy is in our past. And if our power lies in our energy, then our power is in our past. So this letting go is to reach a point where that memory no longer has an emotional charge for us. And Dr. Joe Dispenza said that a memory without emotional charge is called wisdom. And none of our experiences go to waste. We can really transform our suffering into wisdom and reveal our strength with that. So these are the 5 things that came up for me. I'd love to hear from you. What does forgiveness mean to you? What has been your relationship with forgiveness? Has it been as bumpy as mine? And where are you at with that now? I'd love to hear from you, so don't hesitate to type that in if you wish, or at least write it down for yourself, for your own self-reflection.